What's up, my Wizards dev? SPMTG, place down there, Magic Channel on YouTube's. Today, we got more Shadows Over Innistrad spoilers for you today. There were a lot of them today. Some of them common, a lot of them decent and draft and stuff, but some really balmy stuff along with it too, so let's check those out. Think nothing of the coat, by the way. It's cold and I am a man of few coats. Definitely the newest card spoiled, as of the recording of this video at least, is Seasons Past. This was spoiled just about 20 minutes ago, actually, right before I started recording. And it's neat. It is 4 of anything and 2 green mana for a sorcery. Return any number of cards with different converted mana costs from your graveyard to your hand. Put Seasons Past on the bottom of your library. Finally, a green mythic. We're like 18 mythics in now. I mean, this could be a 20 mythic set. And we finally get mono green mythic. I don't know if any of you knew this, but there has been like a promise of a mini mutiny from green players if we didn't get a green mythic. Here it is. A lot of green players are even saying like, it can even be subpar, I just want a green mythic. Well, be careful what you wish for. I'm not saying the card is bad. Actually, the card looks interesting at the very least, you know. But for 6 mana, a lot of people say this is overcosted. I say it's exactly right, you know. I won't say it's undercosted, but it's about right, you know. Putting 2 or 3 cards in your hand is pretty good, and sometimes you'll put even more than that depending on what phase of the game you're in and what you've milled into your graveyard up to that point. So I can definitely see this being bomb. The text on the card is obviously very powerful. I'm just not really sure what to do with it, you know. And Commander, it just seems like it might be really, really good in EDH. We probably have better stuff, you know. I'm not totally sure. Let me know, Commander green players. As far as Standard goes, it's a lot of mana, but you know, so is Sorin, so is Ulamog. You know, we play big money cards or big mana cards. Sorin's not even out yet, but we play it. But in any case, 6 mana is a lot for something like this, and it's a sorcery, and you say go after you play it. I'm just not entirely sure, although we are discarding a lot of cards in this format, just not in this color. I'm not sure. It looks kind of like a mess, but definitely powerful text, so we'll have to see what happens. That was the most recent card, spoiled, at least as of the recording of this. I want to pivot to the first card that was spoiled today. Actually spoiled like 5 minutes after I started uploading yesterday's video, so that was hilarious. This is Prized Amalgam, and it's pretty cool. A lot of people talking about this. It is 1 of anything, a blue and a black mana for a 3/3 zombie, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or if you cast it from your graveyard, you return Amalgam from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of your next end step. Pretty sweet zombie right here. I was wondering if the zombie deck was going to really be blue-black or if it was just going to be mono-black. Definitely a reason for the deck to be blue-black right now, and this definitely reaches much farther than just the standard, you know, tribal zombies deck. A lot of people talking about this for modern play, and I definitely see why Modern Zombies probably wants this, and a lot of modern decks might want this, you know. We are casting creatures from our graveyard in a variety of different ways, not through just reanimation or anything, but also other outlets. This is obviously really good with Liliana, and its own tribe it's good with Relentless Dead and Risen Executioner, that's true. And it's pretty good with Deathness Raptor too, you know. Sultai Shell, anybody? Maybe, you know, maybe finally Sultai and Temur will be things. That would be ironic and hilarious, and exactly what Wizards likes to do. If anything, it's just a vanilla 3/3 for 3 mana when it's, you know, on the battlefield. That's kind of meh. And you know, this could get at, there's a lot of exile effects in the format. I want to say that, you know, there's a lot of safeguards against things like this coming back over and over and over in Standard, because exile is a huge thing. So there's also that to consider. And also it comes back at the beginning of your next end step. That could also be something to consider. I don't think it's a stumbling block or anything, but it probably does degrade the card slightly, only slightly. Yet another cool card coming up. There's a lot of just cool cards in the set, whether they're good or not. This is an Exorable Mass right here, and it's got people talking. It is 2 of anything in a green mana for an ooze. That's a 3/3. It's got Delirium, and whenever an Exorable Mass attacks, and there are at least 4 card types among cards in your graveyard, put a 3/3 green ooze creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Okay, so people like this card, and I hate to be the one to burst bubbles and all that, because it could be a powerful card, indeed, but I do have some issues. First of all, I have to get this out of the way. I know that dice to removal isn't a good argument, you know, I've blasted the argument myself. But this dies to pretty much every pertinent removal in Standard that actually sees play, you know. Dies to Silk Wrap, dies to Grasp of Darkness, dies to Fiery Temper, that's going to see a lot of play, dies to a Turned On Fiery Impulse for that matter, dies to Ultimate Price, you know, dies to Languish, it's gonna die. The thing definitely dies. One of my major gripes with it is that it doesn't do anything the turn it comes into play, which I always have a problem with. If you don't have Delirium, and I think this is the kicker here. If you don't have Delirium, it's a vanilla 3/3 for 3. You know, I was just talking about that with the last card there. The vanilla 3/3s for 3 aren't inspiring, you know, but once you do have Delirium turned on, this is okay. If you do get a few swings in with this, sure, you can get like 6, 9 power on the board, yes. But I'm really not sure about it, guys. I gotta tell you. Just things like this hardly ever work out, and if it protected itself in some way, that'd be nice, but it's within bold range and it dies to every removal that people actually play. So I'm gonna take a pass on it for now, but I acknowledge that it could be a little better than I'm grading it. Here's a fun card. This is probably the best pun name that's ever been on a card. This is Uninvited Geist right here. Uninvited Geist is hilarious, if only for the name alone. It is 2 of anything in a blue mana for a spirit, and it's a 2/2 with Skulk. It also has, when Uninvited Geist deals combat damage to a player, transform it. It transforms into Unimpeded Trespasser, which is a 3/3 spirit that can't be blocked. Well, at the very worst, it's a pretty playable card in limited environments. That's good. And at the very best, it's a decent card in the inevitable blue-white budget spirits deck. That's going to have to be made at some point. We're going to have to do every tribe at some point. And it could be playable in that budget deck. It just, you know, by the time it flips, it's like, or by the time you can attack with it unblockable, it's like turn 5 at the very, very earliest. And I just don't know. I maybe have a little bit of issues with that, but the card is great as far as pun names go. It's probably the best one of all time, you know. I love that in a set that's focused on like Lovecraftian eldritch horror, this set still manages to maintain a sense of levity. The next thing here is kind of weird and hard to evaluate. It could actually be really good, or it could be horrible jank. Let's take a look at Stitchwing Scab here. Scab is 3 of anything in a blue for a 3/1 zombie horror with flying. It also has pay 1 of anything in a blue mana and discard 2 cards to return Stitchwing Scab from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this works with Prized Amalgam right out of the gate. This totally works with that card. Although this definitely seems exploitable, and Madness is in the format, but even then 2 cards is kind of a lot. Although, I do like the idea of discarding copies of this to bring back other copies of this. And that's cool, because then you have more copies in the graveyard and discard more and bring those back, you know. All of that seems good. Does Dredge want this, though? Some people are asking that. Overall, I don't really think so. I wish I had more evidence to back up why I don't think so. I just don't think it looks good in Dredge. I think it looks, you know, kind of underpowered. But it is a 3-power flyer, so there's always that too. Even if Dredge doesn't want it, you know, in Standard at least, it seems pretty cool to mill these into your graveyard and then play them for half price. So, you know, definitely considering it for budget zombies, but I'm not really sure. I really want to play with this card to see if it's good or not. Let's stop off for a second and look at 2 cards at the same time. I'm going to look at 2 white cards with Investigate that I think are at least impactful in limited play. This is Humble the Brute and Survive the Night right here. Humble the Brute is 4 of anything in a white mana for an instant. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and then Investigate. Survive the Night is an instant for 2 of anything in a white mana. And target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn, and then you investigate. Is it okay if I'm just like not really inspired by the investigate mechanic? I'm just like really want to get hyped for that, and I just can't bring myself to do it. But in limited, at least, these are fine cards and costed pretty fairly, you know. In 1, you get removal. That's not bad at all, and lets you draw a card for a couple of mana later. Again, that's investigate. But the other one is a combat trick that lets your creature stay alive and probably kill something too. So, love the fact that these are at least playable limited cards. But aside from that, I just really wanted to point out that Investigate needs to get like a little bit better. That's all I'm saying. You know, it kind of looks like the support of this block, or like the renown of this block. You know, it just seems like, you know, play this in limited, nothing else. Hey, while we're looking at lower grade cards, the rest of the Vessel cycle came out today. They're enchantments that do stuff when you sacrifice them, which is cool because that fuels Delirium. I always like that. But let's take a look at these sort of in quick succession and see what we have here. The white one is Vessel of Ephemera, and it's 1 of anything in a white mana for an enchantment. You pay 2 in a white, and you sacrifice the Vessel to put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield, which is kind of reminiscent of Lingering Souls, but it's not Lingering Souls. But it seems pretty good in draft. And then there's Vessel of Paramnesia. That's the blue one. And I love that the art is reminiscent of Memory Lapse. That's pretty cool. This is also 1 of anything in a blue mana for an enchantment. You pay a blue and you sacrifice Vessel of Paramnesia. Target player mills the top 3 cards of his or her library, and then you draw a card. This will probably be cast on yourself a lot of the time, I would imagine at least, and seems pretty good. It's also worth pointing out that this is the cheapest one to activate, so that's cool. And Delirium is a big thing in blue, or at least, you know, blue's probably going to be in the decks that run Delirium at least. The black one is pretty cool too. This is Vessel of Malignity. It's 1 of anything and a black mana for an enchantment. You pay 1 of anything in a black, pay its casting cost again and sack it, and target opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. You can only do that when you can play a sorcery. That makes sense. In this format, I'll just point out that Eldrazi like when you exile things. And I also like that it's just exiling 2 cards straight up, although early game especially, this will cost you a whole 2 turns to do. Late game, it'll cost you 4 mana. I'm just not sure either of those situations are worth it. Exiling cards is pretty good. And the green one is Vessel of Nascency. This is just 1 green mana for an enchantment. You pay 1 and a green to sacrifice it and reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker card from among them into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. I really like that this puts the rest of the cards in your graveyard, a la like Grizzly Salvage, you know, excuse me. Also like that there's a lot of permanent types there that you can choose from. So that actually doesn't seem too bad, and is a good way for green to get an enchantment into their graveyard without having to like play an Oath of Nissa on top of an Oath of Nissa. Overall, I'm really digging these vessels, man. I think they're really good in limited play. I think they actually have some potential on the budget level. We'll have to see about that. I like that they're enchantments because they fuel Delirium and they work with Starfield of Nyx. And maybe, you know, well, lots of reason to like these things. And I know I've asked this a lot lately, but I'll ask at least one more time here. Pauper players, are you excited about any of these? Next up, let's talk about Altered Ego for a second. Altered Ego is a creature, it's a shapeshifter. It costs X mana and then 2 of anything, a green and a blue. And it can't be countered. It comes into play as a 0/0. And you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except that it enters with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. First of all, again, love the art. I say that nearly every card, but this art is great. And it reminds me of the episode of Rugrats where, like, Angelica thought that her parents were going to have a baby and, like, she had the nightmare where the baby got all huge. I don't know, it just reminds me of that. As far as practicality goes, this is probably a bulk rare unless I'm missing something. Commander players probably like this, but I really have no clue what deck it actually goes in because I could know more about Commander, to be honest with you, but this probably goes in a thing somewhere. I do like that it can't be countered. That's at least interesting. And I like that it can be better than the creature that it's copying, which is probably pretty relevant. So yes, to all of that, but end of the day, I mean, Clever Impersonator saw like no play, and that was like arguably better than this card. I don't like that you have to have blue and green, you know, just there's a lot of sort of roadblocks to this card being decent. So I'm calling bulk rare here, but we'll have to see. Just from what I can tell, the ego isn't so super. Psychology jokes. Here's something that's getting people talking, but I'm not so sure. This is Forgotten Creation right here. It is 3 of anything and a blue mana for a zombie horror. It's a 3/3 with Skulk. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw that many cards. People are saying tutelage, and that makes some sense, but I'd probably pump the brakes on that right now. I've played a lot of tutelage in the last 6 months here, and I'm just not too sure about this, guys. Honestly, we play very few creatures in the deck, which means that, any creatures we do play are even have a higher chance of getting removed, because our opponent's sitting there with a grip full of removal that's mostly dead in their hand for a lot of the game. So when we do play a creature, they are quick to remove it. I do see that you could play this and then maybe back it up with Dispel or Negate a little bit later in the game. But I just, my argument is that if we didn't play Jorian Ruin Diver in Red Blue Tutelage, we probably won't end up playing the 4-drop creature either, even Tutelage didn't even really start playing Chandra. Some people play the 1 or 2 of Chandra in their Tutelage, but on the competitive level, and you don't really see that deck very often, but occasionally it pops up in like top 30s, those players don't usually play Chandra because it just costs too much. And I'm not sure that a 4-mana guy costs too much. I mean, Chandra's 6. This is only 4, but it has to live a whole turn. I want to reiterate that. It has to live an entire turn, which is a little bit harder than it sounds. I'm not sure that this isn't a wasted slot, is all I'm saying. Okay, favorite card of the day by a lot. Maybe my favorite card in the set, and honestly, seriously, maybe my favorite card I've seen spoiled in a really long time. This is the Gitrog Monster right here, and he is cool. Hold on to your hats here. He is a 5 mana. That's 3 of anything, a black and a green, for a legendary frog horror, which is the best creature type ever. He's a 6/6 with Death Touch, and check out these seriously amazing abilities. First of all, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. Doesn't sound great. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. That makes that first line of text a little better, but here's the best part. Whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. More like the Get Wrecked monster. This thing works with lands that you discard, lands that you mill from the top of your deck. This thing works with lands that go to the graveyard from effects like, say, Grisly Salvage. I'll bring that card up again. This works with fetch lands, not just the traditional fetches, but things like Evolving Wilds. It works with blighted lands in Standard. That's an important thing to consider. Lots of stuff that this works with in Modern. Works with Life from the Loam pretty darn well. In other formats, it works with things like Wasteland and Strip Mine. Pretty super amazing. Kill your land and draw a card. The Drown Yard we just saw the other day, that thing that can return itself from the graveyard, definitely meant for this, one would imagine. And best of all, thing people are really talking about is it works amazing with Dredge. You know, first draw of the turn, you replace it with a Dredge, and if any lands go to the graveyard as a result of that Dredge, you can then dredge again. So it wouldn't be too hard, one would imagine, if with the right deck, to basically, once you have this out, flip your deck after drawing just 1 card. That's all well and good, but you know I'm most concerned with Standard, although that deck does seem really, really good. Somebody just asked me to do a Jund ramp deck the other day, and this is at least a consideration for that deck, and may work well with things like Mina and Den, you know? Like Jund lands, basically. A deck can play like 30 lands, you know? And, oh, by the way, while we're talking about Jund colors, let's not forget Seismic, or Molten Vortex, excuse me. Molten Vortex seems pretty awesome with this. So does Seismic Assault, which is the card I was about to say. But in Standard, Molten Vortex seems good. You know, shock something, draw a card. That seems alright. Altogether, super excited about Hypnotoad making his debut in Magic. The card's going to be good in multiple formats. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Just extremely undercosted, even at 5 mana. For all the stuff that he does, his power toughness is really high, and they just slap Death Touch on the stupid thing. I mean, this outclasses a lot of important creatures that we play at the top of the curve in Standard, so I could definitely see this being a force in a lot of different things. So we're going to be trying it out. I am really, really just completely enamored with this card, you know. So I'm going to be doing stuff with it. We'll keep you posted. If nothing else, it's a legendary frog horror. That's awesome. I'm going to point this out too. It is the Gitrog Monster. That's great. Like, it could have just been Gitrog Monster or something. It is, my friend, the Gitrog Monster. It's just so great. That's all I got for now. Still really, really high on that last card. Just really, card is awesome. I'm super stoked about playing a legendary frog horror. So awesome. But anyway, let me know how you felt about all these spoilers, and we'll have more coming up for you, as well as Esper Control and Jund Midrange, and definitely Wolves. You know, all this stuff's coming up soon. Humans, spirits, all of it. So sub if you're new, or if you want to see all that content, you know, you'll get notified when we put the videos out. That's important. And like if you enjoyed the content. I hope you did. I worked really hard. Share the video if you think it deserves to be shared. That'd be really cool, actually. And then comment, like I've already said. Let me know how you feel. You know, this is all the YouTube stuff. Just do it. And I'll see you guys next time. My name's Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.